well-known electronic names here. Here's one by Canon. There's a JVC. This is a Mitsubishi. This is a Sanyo. There's a Sony. Over there is a Toshiba. And this one is from Hitachi. They are part of a group of 17 different machines from 17 manufacturers where, although the machines themselves look rather different one from another, they all have one thing in common. 3 letters. MSX. MSX stands for the operating system on which they all work. Now that's very interesting because what it's supposed to do is to give these machines what's called software compatibility, or if you would like that in English, it comes down to this. It means that I should be able to whip the cartridge out of this one, swap it with the cartridge that's in this one, plug it in properly. Here we go. Swap that one into there, and the programs will run without any problem on the other machine. And you can do that with all the MSX machines in the range, which, as you can imagine, is a significant commercial threat indeed to European and United States computer manufacturers. So significant that we hear rumours that Philips are about to launch their own MSX machine, and further rumours that other manufacturers here in the West are following the MSX route because it does provide a significant commercial advantage. While I was in Japan, I asked some of the people behind MSX why they had gone for a common operating standard.
I feel that the quality of software that's out there today is far short of what's possible and what's necessary to be able to go out to someone and say, yes, you should buy a computer and use it in your home. Frankly, the home market isn't tapped. We're still only selling to the people who are curious or worried that their kid might fall behind. And we have to encourage innovation in the most important area, which is the software area. And MSX is an incredible aid to that. Also, on the hardware side, by having a standard interface between software and hardware, where the hardware is very high volume, the chip companies can go off and build specialized chips that take the functions that originally on MSX are being done with 20 chips and slowly but surely work that down to a single chip so the price of the product can be low enough that it'll be built into the TV set someday.
Does the introduction of MSX, in your view, represent a move towards very many fewer computers using fewer systems?
Well, yes, that's absolutely the key to MSX. It's kind of what we call Tower of Babel, where you end up with a lot of software instead of a few very, very good focused packages that really sell in high volume. Everyone agrees that there will be fewer computer standards. And in the U.S. market at the high end, the so-called IBM PC compatibles are reducing the amount of variety there. In the very low end, MSX will reduce the amount of variety. Instead of all these MSX manufacturers having different machines, they'll all have compatible machines. So over time, there'll be some consolidation to allow the software industry to do what it has to do. One thing to keep in mind about MSX is there's actually quite a bit of variety. On top of the base level standard, people can put in their own extensions, whether it's music or videotape interface, and the amount of memory that's built in, the way the keyboard's done, allows for substantial variation while maintaining the ability to run the same software. And so people should look around as these come out and decide which one is most appropriate.
There is a small computer called a video game computer. There is a home computer. There is a personal computer. There is a small business computer. There is an office computer. MSX has been designed with the architecture of these high-end machines and stripped down to low end. So this is a very continuous growth. So customer can even upgrade the game machine to be a personal business machine. It has been only computer company who has been making personal computers. But there's a lot of other electronics company who has been interested, who would like to integrate computer function into their own dedicated consumer products. Company like Panasonic and Sony, they are large in producing television set. Then they are deciding to put a computer capability into the television set. And in the case of Yamaha, they are very large keyboard manufacturers. They would like to integrate a computer into a keyboard. lot of new consumer products coming, like a compact disc, the video disc, videotape, music stereo, keyboard. A lot of electronic consumer products is going to be integrated.
Well now, here at the computer fair at Earl's Court and watching that item on MSX with me, Sir Clive Sinclair. Sir Clive, MSX, is it music to your ears or does it represent a significant commercial threat?
Certainly not a commercial threat to us. I mean, it's quite clear what's happened here. Japan and America have both, strangely as it may seem, failed to do anything like as well as Britain in the personal computer business. They've suffered very badly from this. The Japanese companies, Sony and many others, have tried again and again to enter the British market and succeed here. They've tried again and again to enter the American market and succeed there. They haven't done very well there. So they've got together to try and form a common standard. They've had that common standard in Japan now for a year or so, hence all these computers. But what should be realized is that all those companies together, all of them, throughout Japan, make fewer computers than Sinclair Research on its own.
At the moment, but surely the threat comes when people start going into their high street electrical stores and seeing well-known names, the Sanyos, the Sonys, the Toshibas, offering computers next door to their accepted electrical goods.
Fine, yes, it's like, but what happens is this, it's just as if all the car manufacturers have got together and said, let's all have the same engine, the same gearbox, the same axle, and let's use the one that was designed 5 years ago. Won't that be great, you know? Nobody will have to bother about it, you know, they'll all take the same spare parts. But it'll be a 5-year-old car and they'll all be the same.
All right, well now let's turn to something that wasn't designed 5 years ago, the QL. We have a number of queries about the Sinclair QL that have come in over our electronic mail. This is typical of many from Dale Adgett, who lives in Exeter. And he says this: could you please ask Sir Clive 2 questions. Why the QL has no cassette port, and why it has half the operating system sticking out of the back of it?
Right. It has half the operating, or had half the operating stick sticking out of the back, because we issued some early ones in that form. That's no longer the case. They're all built into the machine.
All right, let me just stop you there then. For those early ones, are you going to update them for the people who bought them,
Absolutely.
or are they lumbered with it?
Absolutely. No, we told them that they were afraid they were guinea pigs in a sense. We thought they'd like a machine early rather than no machine at all. They had the machine with a bit sticking out, but that'll be updated as soon as possible, very soon indeed, in fact.
Right, what about the cassette port?
There's no cassette port because there are 2 micro drives built in. And, of course, they'll do the same job much faster, 10, 20 times faster.
Don't you think it's a little sad that people who have Spectrum software on microdrive can't just plug it into the QL?
Oh, well, it may be sad, but you see, that's really what MSX does. If it was MSX, you could do that, but you'd have a 5-year-old machine. Now, this machine is roughly 20 times as powerful as the Spectrum. And the Spectrum, by the way, is 2 or 3 times as powerful as the MSX machines. So those are the sort of standards we're talking about. If you've got this enormous leap, there's no way you can do this, any more than you could plug a Jaguar engine into a Mini.
Nobody's ever disputed your capacity as a salesman, sir. Now, the other question that we've had this from lots of people. Lovely machine, where are the manuals?
Well, I'm sorry about that. It was a blunder. We sent out some manuals with some of the pages missing. That's all been corrected. Every single person that had a manual has had it updated.
You said it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Last year, over 50,000 people visited the computer fair here at Earl's Court. And this year, the organisers are hoping for an even greater attendance. Now, the show's open until Sunday evening if you want to come along. We've been taking a look at some of the show highlights. Here's the Commodore stand, so let's take a look at what's new. Well, the old favourites are still here, the VIC-20 and the Commodore 64. There are also 2 newcomers. There's the Commodore Plus 4 and the Commodore 16. And with me is Gail Wellington from Commodore. Now, Gail, it almost looks as if these 2 new products are going to be replacing the 2 existing ones. Is this going to be the case?
Definitely not. In the past, Commodore has attempted to discontinue products. We've learned from experience that we should not do that. As long as customers wish to buy the VIC-20 and the Commodore 64, they will be available. And as you know, the Commodore 64 in particular is very popular these days.
Now, for all the people who already have a Commodore 64 and wish to purchase this machine, say, instead, will their software be compatible?
We've learned from experience again that the majority of our customers are first-time buyers. Though the upgrade market is much smaller, the computers you see here are not compatible with 64 software, but offer additional features over the 64 and the VIC-20.
Now, when are these 2 new products going to be available?
The Commodore 16 will be available in quantity in September, and the Plus 4 very shortly thereafter.
Gail, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, here's a small surprise. GEC and Dragon on the same stand. In fact, this is GEC's stand. Dragon went bust 2 weeks ago. It owes something like £4 million to its various silicon chip suppliers, and obviously they're not happy about it. However, I'm told that two companies, GEC itself, which distributes it, and Tandy, who made the original colour computer on which the Dragon is based, are both interested in buying it. So I'm fairly sure there will be a company around in 2 years' time. The question is what it'll be making. They have a secret machine, an MSX machine, which they hope to launch for Christmas, and quite possibly whichever company takes over the company will be interested in doing that. If you yourself own a Dragon, there's no point in becoming totally panic-stricken, except, of course, the small possibility that between now and Christmas, Dragons will sell for half what you paid for them.
Now, I want you to imagine that you really wanted to know what the German was for a bee. You know, the word is Biene. Now, the way to do it, according to this computer program, is to imagine a bee alighting on a baked bean. Biene, bean. Got it? Mike Grunenberg reckons you should have got it. Are you serious, Mike?
Absolutely. There's a long history of work in psychology which shows that this is a very effective method for learning vocabulary. For example, we've got the example here of bee and Biene, but
right.
if you wanted to learn cow in Spanish, the Spanish for cow is vaca, so you imagine a cow with a vacuum cleaner cleaning the field and so on.
What an interesting image. Now, how many languages can I get it in, and how many words in each language?
Well, you can get it in 4 languages, French, German, Spanish and Italian, and there are between 350 and 400 words, plus a basic grammar to enable you to string it together, so that, for example, you can ask, where is the toilet, or say, I've a pain in my stomach, where's the doctor?
Useful questions, in fact. Now, tell me, this then is obviously not to become fluent in the language, but to help, what, the tourist or the businessman?
Yes, the businessman who wants to be abroad next week and wants to show his host that he's made some effort to learn the language. And it's also for the kid who perhaps finds it difficult to learn at school by conventional methods and finds this an easier way of doing it.
Mike, thank you very much indeed. Lurking here, Mike Thorne. Mike, what do you think of it?
Well, I think we should put it to the test. And indeed, we'd like you to try the software. The first 50 people who write to us will get a free copy, provided you're prepared to let us know in about 10 days' time how you get on with it. You need to have either an Oric, Commodore 64, Spectrum or BBC Micro. If you've got one of those, drop us a postcard. The address is Database, Thames TV, London, W1.
Quite right, but remember, it isn't just a free software giveaway. You do have to do some work if you want to take part in that. Also at the show, you can see this for the first time, the Apple IIc Portable. Nice, elegant machine. You can take part in a computer-assisted tombola to assist Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital, which I warmly recommend to you.